Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another great episode. Alejandro Salamone here. Happy 2025. For those of you who are celebrating the new year in January, and for those of you who are celebrating the new year from an astrology standpoint, then we're still in 2024 because we're still out here in January. Wow, has been a really intense and profound 2024. Wow. I know for me, it has felt like 5 years minimum into one. It's probably one of the most compact years of my life, year of my life, with so many different experiences, so much change, and so much has happened. It's just, it's hard to put into words with not just like the simple things, right? Like trips and all these sort of things that are like, okay, yes, they happened and it was a lot, but more so like internal things and like experiences that were super profound. Going to trips and having very profound and really intense experiences. And for me also, most importantly, it's been a lot of development, a lot of growth, a lot of healing and learning and remembering, and also stepping more into myself. And that has come with a lot of challenges. And that's what I want to talk about for today. I want to talk a little bit about the time that we're in, because it's very interesting time right now that we are stepping into, and not only stepping into, but also as that we are in as a collective, and what's happening even on the universe. In January 20, I think on the 20th or the 23rd. I don't remember the exact date, but don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it's on the 20th, where all of the planets in our solar system are going to be aligned. And this happens every few hundred years. And that's taking place, that alignment of the planets. And just to be a part of that, right? Just to think about that to be alive and be able to be a part of that. Also stepping into the time of Aquarius, that this cycle happens every 2,000 years. And we are alive here to experience the energy of stepping into that era, which is quite remarkable as well. So these are just little examples, right? Little things that are... I should have put my hair in a ponytail. There are things that are happening that are quite remarkable in my opinion, and that we get to be a part of it. So I am just grateful, and I want to speak to that, like what it means to be alive in this time. And what it means to you as an individual. Because obviously, if you're a listener, if you're here, if you're watching, listening, you know my channel is about spirituality. You know that my channel, it's about connecting, with oneself. It's about development, right? And so it should come to no surprise that my perspective on this is all around spirituality, is all around, not just all around spirituality, but that's the seed where everything comes from, and then is looking at it from other perspectives as well and putting it all together. But I want to refocus myself because my mind is kind of like all over the place right now. But yeah, I just want to pause there for a moment and just kind of give you a little bit of an intro of what we're going to be talking about. It's been really a really profound year. To be honest, I cannot emphasize that enough, and I do want to share a lot more of some of the experiences that I can share and that I want to share with you out there, because what I'm also learning about this idea of sharing is oftentimes people, we start to find our people, like we start to realize like, oh wow, that person was going through that as well, and I was going through that, and then you start to realize like the collective. And sometimes we can feel like alone, or sometimes it can feel overwhelming, and we look around and we perceive the world outside of us that everybody is doing so good or whatever, um, and maybe they are, but it's always good to know that there are others out there who are also experiencing these challenges, who are also experiencing these intense experiences, because it is unique, right? I do believe that, and I know that to be true. Is by the way, if you're new to my channel, I don't edit my videos, if you can't tell. I just like to keep it nice and real. You know what I mean? There's too much editing in the world. I just like to keep it just as if you and I were talking here. You know, I wouldn't be like, hey, close your eyes for a second, turn off your hearing, I gotta fix my hair or whatever. Like, no, it's all good. Anyway, yeah, so it's important. And again, what I want to talk about also is how, if you're coming across this video, if this is something that is resonating with you, any of the things that I'm talking on my channel, it's part of all of us coming together as well. Is souls that are on a specific path, right? On a particular path. And it's important to share, for some of us who can, especially to share in this way, to put it out into the world, because it's part of it. It's part of all of us coming together and realizing that the things that we're going through, it's part of a much bigger picture. We are just pieces of puzzles in this massive picture of what it is that it's developing into the consciousness of humanity and the evolution of humanity. And that's exciting because you get to be a part of it. I get to be a part of it. And of course, I believe everything is by choice to an extent, but also is on a soul level, that you came here to do this. You came here to go through this process for a reason. So anyway, let's dive right into these things. Another thing that for when I do these, I don't have like a bullet point or like an agenda or anything like that. It's very raw. It's very much like feeling into the energy of the topic and allowing myself to just open the channel, and whatever needs to come through. It's not a place where I'm trying to think, you know, it's like, oh, like, what do I need to say? Or, you know, what would be good to say right now, or anything like that. It's very much, my brain is off and I just open the channel, and what comes through. And so with that being said, you know, I think it's important to, we'll start by stating that we oftentimes forget, or we don't think about, some of us, or some people, humans, I mean us humans, that our earth is alive. It's alive. And it's been interesting because I don't argue with people. I don't like to argue. I never try to point, like to make a point or anything like that. Like, I respect people's opinions, and of course I'm always humble, and I'm not here to say that my way it's the only way or anything like that. I think it's healthy to have conversations. I think it's healthy to challenge things from a space of trying to understand. But I also think it's healthy to also respect, right? That we don't have to agree with everything everyone is always saying, but we can respect that that's their reality. That's what they believe. And so, but it's interesting when I have heard people that cannot conceptualize the idea how our Earth is alive. Like, it's like on a logical perspective, it's like, well, yeah, it's like an obvious thing because there's obviously life on this Earth. But what I mean on top of that is that it's its own being, just like each bird's its own being, just like a butterfly and a tree and a plant. Everything is it's its own, while it's all connected at the same time. Because its birth, including ourselves, is we are able to be here because of the Earth. we would not be able to be born. That's just the reality of things, right? We breathe because of the Earth. We are alive because of the food and the nourishments that the Earth brings, and everything else. And so the fact that if we can accept that our Earth is alive, it's a being that is alive, and however that may look like to you, for me is that she has a spirit. Like, she has a spirit, just how the sun. When I say a spirit, think of like an energy, that it's like an intelligence, if to put it into words, right? That is not just like the sun is not just a ball of fire. There's energy within its own self that is happening outside of the understanding of science, right? There's the idea of energy is so complex and so deep that oftentimes it gets really dismissed by the limitation of science. And so, so each planet has its own unique energy, yeah, and it's not just there; it's alive, because energy cannot be destroyed nor created. It gets transformed and transmuted from one source to another, which is constant, right? And energy is always moving. So our Earth is a very unique planet for various reasons, just as you are unique, and there's no one like you. There may be people who are similar to you. There may be people who may look similar to you, but there's no one that is just like you. Even if you had a twin, an identical twin, you guys are not exactly the same. There's going to be differences physically, differences, with your personalities and etc. And so this is for a reason. This is consciousness of, or God, experiencing itself in all the various different ways that it's available, and it's constant. And so what I'm trying to say is that every planet and every single star and moon and essence of energy, it's unique to its own, because it's an expression of consciousness. And the difference of it, even if it's on a micro level, even if it's just one decimal, even if it's just one grain, even though it's just one little tiny difference, that tiny difference is the difference. And so going back to the uniqueness of this planet and how it's alive, it is also evolving. It has also gone through many evolutions. It has also gone through many cycles. And so this is something we can see with our own idea of what we know about the history of our planet. And right now, in this time, the Earth is getting ready to go on a deeper or a new cycle. Okay, it's getting ready to go into a new cycle that it's evolving. So this is the conversation that people talk about, like we're going from the 3D to the 5D. right? To the fifth dimension. But no one talks about the fourth dimension. So this is not just humans, but it's everything on this earth, because the earth is evolving itself, right? And so with that, I mean, we are all, each one of us have our own magnetic field, going back to energy, and everything is affected by energy, right? And so the magnetic field of the earth is part of the evolution of her, of the earth, is also how the magnetic field changes. Okay, because that's the energy source of the earth, right? We can see that in the sphere of both magnetic fields, how it forms like a coil of energy, and that magnetic field plays a huge role on the ocean, on weather, and even like the sun. It plays a huge role on everything on this planet. So that is happening, and there's already been a shift. I think it's 6 degrees that's happened on the Earth axis, and it's going to continue to happen. Okay. And so along with the changes that it brings of that core energy shift, everything gets affected by it. And so why am I bringing this up? Why am I even talking about this? Because we are also experiencing that as well. So as Mother Earth, as Mother Nature, as our planet is experiencing different changes energetically, we and all the animals and everything, all the plants and all the land, all the oceans, everything gets affected along with it. Because we're all here, we're all connected, right? And so that's the big part of the collective that's happening, right? In this rotation, in this evolution that the earth is going through. And along with that, our role as humans, and how we are evolving or connecting back again, deeper into the cosmos, deeper within consciousness, and deeper within our earth. And I say again because we have seen this, right? There are many different cultures out there that talk about the ancient ones, right? We see this in the Egyptians, we see this in Tibetan Buddhism, and Hinduism as well in India. We see it in South America and Central America, and with different tribes and different indigenous people and cultures throughout, from the Mayans, right, which were very evolved, very highly evolved, to the Incas as well. And the list goes on and on and on throughout Asia and different parts of Africa. So, there is a lot of that, of the old world that was, there are parts of it that were left on this planet, in which we are nowadays starting to kind of, and I say that loosely, like really understand what was really happening, because these civilizations disappeared. But there was a clear evidence, right, of an advanced civilization that existed, and then they disappeared. And a lot of the technology that we were finding then, even with our own technology today, we cannot figure it out. Okay. Why? Because it's different, right? We think, like, with the idea of thinking about like the future, like, oh, but we're more evolved, like we have, cell phones and computer, and it's this nanotechnology and all this stuff, and we like to compare it. We like to compare it with these stones and these tools, and like how they're perfectly cut, and we only think of how we would do that now with the tools that we have today, and our understanding of how we have evolved throughout time, but we can't figure it out. And the point of this that I'm bringing is that was an evolution, that was a stage, that was an experience, both for Earth and for humanity. And the reason why it didn't continue, why we cannot figure it out, why it got wiped out, because it needed to hit a reset. The Earth needed to hit a reset. That's what there's, a lot of evidence that we see around big floods happening, that happened in the past. Well, that's Mother Nature is just doing, let me reset. Think about how many times we've done that. Maybe you haven't, but I know at least I have. I've had to hit the reset button many times in my life where I had to just start all over. Just forget all of that, forget everything, and really just approach things with a complete, fresh, new perspective. And that was necessary in order to evolve. And so that's from the channel information that I am able to tap into, the Akashic records, for example, as well, which we all have access to these things. Again, I just want to be very clear, I'm not like some special guy that only I can access these things. No, we all have access to these things. We do. It's about this is a very complex thing to get into, but maybe we'll get into it. But we all have access to the idea of information, because everything is recorded. Everything is recorded in the water. Okay, everything is recorded in the air. Everything is recorded in the energy. There's the idea of memory. It's in there. Just how, if you freeze water, or if you are playing music, and there is a snow machine that's making fake snow, right? That's freezing essentially the water. And you look at it under a microscope, each one of them is going to be different, but it's an expression of water that's what's frozen in time. And then when you unfreeze it, it continues. So it's fascinating. It's what I'm trying to say. And the idea that we have to... Okay, so if we want to evolve, we also have to be willing to evolve. And that's, I think, where I want to pivot next, is that, yes, there are people who are waking up, the idea of awakening. There are people who are remembering. There are people who are awakening with their gifts. They're connecting more with their gifts, what we call gifts, or just being more in tune with themselves, being more in tune with the universe, with everything. And then there are people who are not. And so what does that mean? Well, two things. One, the idea that everybody is going to awaken, in my personal understanding of things, from what I understand, from what I've received, is that's not how it's supposed to be, or it's going to be. Why? For two reasons. One, we all have free will, and that's part of being here on this planet, is we have free will. And that's why there is so much reincarnation, because we come here, we have the free will to make choices and to experience life in the way we want to experience it. But if we don't fulfill what is necessary in order for us to evolve on a soul level, on a spirit level, which it is such a thing, which I feel like we should probably talk a little bit about on here. Then once we transition from the physical realm and back into the energetic realm or spiritual realm, then we are able to connect to consciousness, to everything. And we're able to see again, like, oh man, like I see where I learned these things. I see where maybe I created some bad karma. I see where maybe I created some good karma, and all these things, right? Because everything it's understood. Because it removes the human mind aspect of it. And so we come back. And then there are souls who have evolved. They've been here many, 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 many times, and they have been evolving each time. They have learned their lessons and karma and everything else. And there are souls who are waiting to come at a certain time because they've reached a certain level. And there are souls even here who are incarnated here, who are very evolved souls that are here to help humanity. But that doesn't take away the fact that they're also going to be experiencing things that they're going to learn as well. Right? That it's part of it, if you will. Or that because you have all that you're not going to go through any struggles, or you're not going to go through any hardship. Because oftentimes in the human experience, in the time that we're in, the hardship, the struggles, the obstacles, they are really the memory, where we can tap into the memory. It's where we can learn. It's where we can understand the dynamic between the polarity of one and the other, the hot, the cold, the dark, the light, the up, the down, the in, the out, the positive, the negative, etc. And in that understanding, we come to then learn about harmony, the balance of it all. Because an extreme of both, of everything exists, and it's infinite. The extreme of positive, the idea, just speaking like energy specifically, the idea of positive energy, it's infinite throughout the universe. There's no end to it. It's infinite. And the idea of negative energy, it's the same. It's infinite throughout the universe. Okay? And you can experience the extremes of both of those. You can. Absolutely. And they only exist because they need each other to exist. One cannot exist without the other, because it's an expression of itself. Hopefully I'm not losing you right now. Like, think of it like this. The only reason we like appreciate the sunlight, and this is just like a super simple like example, it's because we understand the darkness. Like the idea of light can only exist because there is a darkness for there to be a light, for there to be a difference between the two. Does that make sense? And so the polarity is important, and it's all part of it. So anyway, where I'm going with this is, so this exists throughout the entire universe, and you can choose, right? When you come to this planet, you can choose which side you want to experience. And the tricky part is that you don't remember right away, right? You don't remember right away all the things you've experienced or what you know before coming to this earth. And some people do, and that's not by accident. Nothing is by accident. Everything is very much by design. So some souls need that. They are giving that, like, okay, you're going to remember some of it from when you're a kid, and then as you get older you'll remember more, or things like this. And then there are people who are different, but they don't think anything about it. They grow up as kids and everything else, much like myself even, and then there's an awakening that happens, and then everything becomes clear. And then it can happen in your 20s, it can happen in your 30s, it can happen in your 40s. Okay? And this idea of like, oh, I was born different and it's real, yes, but it's not always the case. Okay, I just want to be very clear about that. And so the point that I'm trying to to go with this is that all of this is by design. Okay, it's by design, and it's all part of it. So the fact that we have free will, there are people who want to experience being in the matrix, who want to experience like fame, who want to experience greed, who want to and need to experience being someone that's very in the material world, or things like this, being a politician or corruption, or all of these things. Like, I'm telling you, it's very complex, but it makes sense. And so what I want to bring it back to is the ones that are feeling within themselves, within your heart, within our hearts, right? Within their hearts, this calling within, that is also by design. Okay. So if you are one of these people who is feeling this pull, who is feeling this call, our goal is not to make anyone do anything. We're not trying to we're taking a thirsty horse to the river, but we're not going to make it drink water, because they have free will. And a lot of that, I feel it's something that I see, and I experienced this myself years ago when I was really stepping more into my own healing. And I was like, wow, man, like I want everyone to experience this, or I want everyone to heal, or like, why are you doing this and that? Naturally, that's how we feel, right? When we see the power and when we see things so clearly, we want everyone to jump on board because it would make the world a better place. But I learned with time that there's nothing for me to do around that. It's actually quite the opposite. Everything that I need to do is continue to stay in my path and just show up with that energy, and that energy showing up that way, whether it's in this podcast, whether it's in just how I show up and with my friends or family or just strangers out in the street, that is what it's all about. And those who are ready, they're going to feel that. Those who are ready, they're going to come to you. And we're all going to come together. We're all coming together. And we are vibrating higher. And collectively, we're becoming brighter. Each one of us being a being of light, right? And as that light, as more of us get together, that light radiates more and more. And it shines into the darkness, into the polar opposite of things. And so this is the importance, right, of the understanding that there are certain souls, there are certain spirits here on this planet who are meant to be awakened, and there are others who are not, or rather that they will choose not to be awakened, and that's okay. That's okay, because the ones that are choosing to do so, right, then we naturally are going to be also part of this is connecting not just deeper within ourselves, but it's also with Mother Earth, with the animals, with all the living creatures, including the trees and the flowers and all the bugs. They all have their own spirit as well. They all have their intelligence. They all have the weaving and the connection it's full. Not even like a fruit fly. Everything has a purpose. Everything has meaning. So in this way, as we are choosing to evolve, as we are choosing to awake, as we're choosing to connect deeper within ourselves, within the different realms, and also within our earth, as the earth is changing, then we can be in harmony with her. And I'll just say that again, we can be in harmony with her. And so, for example, and just an example, let's say that Okay, like there's gonna be a big cleanse through a flood. Okay, let's say like there's a big earthquake somewhere and there's gonna be a big old tsunami. And that is a form of cleanse. Okay, let's say that the day before or the week before you started to receive in your dreams, like dreams about being flooding or this happening, and then also like where to go. And then as the days come closer to the actual event, you start to feel that more and more intensely, until you finally are like, okay, I don't know, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna listen to my intuition. I'm gonna listen to this feeling I have that's so intense. So you just go. You go. And then it happens. And because you listened, because you were connected, you were not a part of that. Because Mother Nature warned you, just as she warns animals as well. If you see, like if a volcano is about to go off or something like this, you see the animals, they're fleeting, right? That's your first indicator. If you see like animals fleeting, they got the warning, like, hey, you might want to go. you know, all jokes aside, like it's just this connection with everything. And so part of the cleanse that I feel that is going to be happening in our lifetime, it's things like this, where there are going to be things that are going to be happening. And those of us who are connected to earth, those of us who are choosing to trust as well, the messages that are going to be coming in will not that we'll be spared, because it's not, I don't see it as that, and I don't want to be that dramatic, but we will be like with that understanding, like that's happening for a reason. That's the earth changing, that's the earth cleansing that energy also. And the idea of like people dying and all these things, you know, like it's another episode for another time that I'll get into. It's natural for all of us to go through that, but I encourage you guys to look into a story, one of my favorite stories by Plato the philosopher. In the book of the Republic, there's the story of the cave. Look it up. And that's what this is all about. It's like understanding the reality within one reality, that it's much more expansive. And when you step out of the cave and see what you thought was it's something else, when you come back into the cave, those who have been in a cave for all their lives, they're not going to want to listen to you. They're not going to believe you. They're not going to understand. That'll make more sense once you look into this story, which I encourage you to do so. But anyway, and so what is the point of this whole thing? Like, why even talk about this? Why am I sharing this with you? How is this going to benefit you? How is this important to you? Well, for many reasons. As I've shared with you before, or maybe I have not, the things that I'm talking to you here, that I'm sharing with you here, are coming from far beyond my mind. Okay? My mind is just an antenna. That's all it is. It's an antenna. And this antenna, it allows things to come through what needs to be spoken, and it will reach people in the way it's supposed to reach. It will reach you as the way it's supposed to reach you. And it's little seeds into the subconscious. Okay, why are they happening? I don't know. I'm not trying to sit here and sometimes I do know, and it's not for me to say, right? But it is for a reason. And most importantly is for you to understand, maybe when you are getting subtle feelings of your intuition, to lean more into that, to trust your intuition during these times, to understand that there are going to be challenges that perhaps you already have been going through or are going through right now, but you're not alone. And that this is a very exciting time and a very unique time to be here. And it's not just because like these things that haven't happened in thousands of years or hundreds of years are happening, but it's because of the macro aspect of it, looking at things from a much larger perspective and the energetics of it all. And so if you are in this path and you are already engaging and connecting with yourself, right, then you are part of that. You are part of this. and that this is important. So the whole point of this is to share and to bring together. As this 2025, my goal is to bring together a community, to start building community, all of us here who want to join, for us to come together to share, right? And to enlighten each other, to expand our light, to do good things on this earth, to pray however you want to pray with that, whether that's through a mantra, whether that's praying to God, or whether that's praying for peace, or whatever it is. There's no one way here, right? It's just the way of expansion, of light, of love, of peace, of harmony. It's the calibration of balance. And so this is why I'm bringing this here forward to you. Whoever it is that it's reaching out, whether it's 5 or 5 million, it doesn't matter. This is the time for us to come together. And there's going to be 2 different worlds in this world. Dolores Cannon talks about this, of how some of us are going to experience and are already experiencing life very, very differently than the majority of people. You know, there are people who they are still very much, and perhaps maybe you are one of these people as well, who are still in the matrix very heavily, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong here, right? It's just more a matter of just the zooming out, the bird's eye view of what's happening and how things are moving. What's happening and how things are moving. That's in the present moment. Okay? And then your decision on how you want to engage within that awareness. Right? And it's not a thing to think about, it's a thing to feel into, to follow. And oftentimes you don't know where it's going to lead you. And that's when the trust comes in. That's the test, that's the part that makes all of this so difficult, right? It's to trust in the unknown, to trust in your heart, not in your mind, in your heart, because that's where your intuition comes from, not your mind. And so I think I'm going to stop there, because I sense that a lot of energy got put out into this video, and I can keep going. I can definitely keep going. But I feel good right there. I do feel that that's a good amount of energy for people, for you to sit with and think about, but most importantly, feel into and digest and integrate. And yeah, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me on social media, on Instagram. That's probably one of the better places at first, as I'm going to be working on how I'm communicating there as well. And I want to start building the community, so we can have Zoom calls at first, and then eventually I'm going to travel around the world and start having events. Different types of events. My goal is also I have a big goal actually that I'm going to wait to share that. It's a very big goal for this year that I want to accomplish, for the community that I want to build. That I'm really, really excited for, that I'll be sharing in this inner circles as well. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's been a pleasure to be here and share a little bit of just my channel, and also from my heart, and to step into what I'm feeling called to do on here on this earth, on this planet, and the importance of it. As always, I'm just a student, as you are, as we are all, here learning day by day, moment by moment, with a lot of humility, with with an open heart, with an open mind. And this is just it, right? It's just about speaking up. It's about just showing up, and from the heart. And so that's where this is all coming from. So thank you so much for your support. If you don't already subscribe to the channel, subscribe so you can keep up with my messages, as I intend to come on here and do them more often, and with a lot of many topics. It's exciting, but a little overwhelming how much there is that I want to share and that I need to share within here and in general. And also things that just continue to happen every single day. There's something new. So anyway, so subscribe so you can keep up. And if you're on YouTube, and follow me if you're on Spotify listening. And please connect with me. Reach out to me on my social media. It's Bravery Living. And stop and say hello. I'd love to hear your story too. I want to start doing more interviews where you get to hop on here if you have a story that you have, because we all do. Reach out to me. I love to hop on a Zoom call, or if you live in Southern California, we can get together and do it in person. And share with people. Continue to share more and more what you have to share with others. All right, my beautiful soul, stay strong, stay true to yourself, stay kind, do your best, and always remember that you're not alone. Until next time.